It is the year 1180, and Japan is on the brink of the greatest samurai civil war in its history. It will be a battle of East versus West. In the east of Japan, Minamoto no Yoritomo has just defeated the Satake clan at Kanasa Castle, and his Genji army has now consolidated control around a region that will one day be known as Tokyo Bay. He has made the small fishing town of Kamakura his base and founded a system known as the Samurai Dokoro, restoring to his followers the rights and claims that have been taken away by their rival clan, the Heike. But in the west of Japan, it is the Heike who have almost complete control, and there the Genji have few supporters. The Heike control not only the ancient capital, Heian-kyo, present-day Kyoto, but also a new capital, Fukuhara, where the Heike warlord Taira no Kiyomori has installed his own grandson as emperor and placed the retired emperor under house arrest. To achieve this position of unparalleled power, he has banished, imprisoned, tortured, and murdered almost all of his rivals. Having retired, officially at least, as the family's head, Kiyomori looks forward to a rich and contented retirement. Confident that his enemies have been defeated, his legacy is secure, and his sons will take the Heike family to even greater levels of power. And yet, on this night at his mansion in his new capital, Lord Kiyomori is troubled, and his sleep is restless. In his dreams, Lord Kiyomori sees a vision. He finds himself in the old capital of Heian, by the banks of the river Kamo. It is night time, and an army of warriors is about to cross the river. It is Kiyomori's memory of the Hogen rebellion which took place 25 years ago. He turns and sees a samurai standing beside him clad in armor. The man clasps his hand, looks in his eye and declares, "For the honor of the samurai." Kiyomori realizes he is facing his one-time ally, the leader of the Genji, Lord Yoshitomo, a man he would later have murdered. Now Kiyomori finds himself in his old stronghold of Rokuhara, and before him, forced to bow at his feet, is a boy. It is Lord Yoshitomo's son, Yoritomo. The boy glances up, and his eyes burn red with anger as he says, "You are nothing like my father." Suddenly the scene shifts, and he is standing in the courtyard of Rokuhara. He looks down, and now he sees an older man in tattered monk's robes looking up at him with undisguised contempt. It is Kiyomori's old enemy, the priest Saiko, who had dared to lead a conspiracy against him years ago. The captured monk spits at him. "You are nothing." Kiyomori then feels his foot slamming down hard on the monk's face and hears the sound of Saiko's teeth shatter among the stones. Now the scene changes again. Kiyomori feels his stomach tighten as he realizes it is a time and place that he felt the most vulnerable. He is in the inner chamber of Rokuhara, where his daughter, Tokiko, is in the painful throes of childbirth. Leaning above her, he sees the figure of the retired Emperor Go Shirakawa, who is performing an exorcism to banish malevolent spirits. As Tokiko struggles with the pain, the old emperor turns to Kiyomori and starts to laugh. And now Kiyomori finds himself on the streets of Heian-kyo, the capital. There are people calling to him, begging, clawing at his clothes. "Why did you leave us?" they cry. As the last light of day fades, the crowds disappear, and Kiyomori is alone again. There is quiet as the sky turns black, and then, in the distance, he sees the silhouette of a carriage. As it draws near, the carriage bursts into flame, and Kiyomori can see with horror that the escorts before and behind the carriage are demons with the heads of horses and oxen. A terrifying creature leading the carriage announces, "We have come from the underworld of King Enma's court to receive you, Lord Kiyomori." Kiyomori searches for escape, but there is nowhere to hide. "But why? Why me?" "For the crime of burning the bronze Roshana Buddha, you have been sentenced to the depths of hell." Kiyomori shuts his eyes to banish the spectre, and slowly opens them again. He sighs with relief as he sees he is back in his room at Fukuhara. It was just a nightmare, he realizes. He rises, lights a candle from his bedside, throws open the double doors, only to recoil when he sees, heaped in the inner court garden, dead men's skulls beyond counting, rolling and churning up and down, in and out, rattling against one another with a huge clatter. As Kiyomori looks on aghast, The skulls clump together into a great mound, bursting the bounds of the garden, some 150 feet high, a mountain of skulls now suddenly filled with living eyes, all of them trained on Kiyomori with an unblinking stare. Kiyomori looks around for help and sees the sword Higekiri resting at his bedside. He grabs the hilt and steps onto the veranda, swinging the sword and calling for his guards to fire arrows. But no one comes to his aid, and all he can hear is laughter from the garden. He stumbles back into his bedroom as the mound of glaring skulls falls upon him, and above the clattering din he hears a voice.
"We're coming for you."
Kiyomori's shriek rips the night air of the Heike household. Attendants rush to the Heike lord's room, and they see him alone on his futon, shaking uncontrollably and dripping with sweat, his eyes wide in fear, his hand stretched out, pointing to the window. Carefully, the attendants wipe the sweat from Kiyomori's shaven head, and his wife, Tokiko, rushes to his side, followed by her sons. Tokiko attempts to comfort him, but he brushes her aside, rising to point at the window to the courtyard. "My lord," she urges, "you are safe. It was just a dream." "Why did they come for me?" Kiyomori says. Kiyomori's son, Munemori, steps forward and asks, "Why did who come for you?" All they see is the back of Kiyomori's head as he stands before the window overlooking the courtyard. Suddenly, Kiyomori turns and asks his eldest son, "So what news is there of our army?" Munemori bows and says, "My nephew, Koremori, arrived back in Fukuhara today with his army, and with almost no casualties." "Ha!" Kiyomori glares. "He should have wiped out Yoritomo's rebellion, but he was defeated by a flock of geese. He should be banished to Kikai-Gashima." The lady Tokiko moves to reassure her husband. "My lord, my love, he is your grandson. It was his first encounter. He will learn." Kiyomori fumes. "So what other news is there? What of the monks at Nara? After their betrayal at Uji Bridge, I assume they have shown some contrition." Munemori clears his throat before replying. "Well, as you know, father, we sent 500 mounted men under Taro Kaneyasu to negotiate with the Nara monks." Kiyomori locks eyes with his son and says, "And?" "Well, we have just received news that the party we sent to Nara has been assaulted, and the monks of Kofukuji Temple decapitated 60 of our men. They placed the heads in a row beside Sarosara Pond. You see, the warriors that we sent did not wear armor or bows and arrows, as we assumed it would be a peaceful negotiation." Kiyomori stands facing the window on the courtyard and says nothing. There is an awkward pause. Munemori continues, "What's more, the monks of Nara apparently played a game of Kemari." "Kemari is a game of kickball, father," Shigehira adds. "It's very popular with the young people." "I know what Kemari is, Shigehira." He turns to glare at them. "And?" Well, instead of kicking a ball," says Munemori, "they used one of the heads of our warriors, and they wrote something on it." "And what did they write on the head?" Kiyomori stares at his eldest son. Your name, father." They told everyone they were playing football with Lord Kiyomori's head. Apparently it drew a rather large crowd. "I'm sure it did." Kiyomori turns again to gaze out across his courtyard. In the darkness of the room, the two sons cannot see their father's expression, but his anger is palpable. "So these monks assume they can do what they want and think their gods will protect them. Well, let us see how strong their resolve is. Shigehira, you will take 20,000 men, no, 40,000 men, to Nara. There will be no mercy this time." 40,000? Kiyomori continues to look out across the courtyard, where the first light of dawn is now breaking. "Do whatever it takes, Shigehira. These monks must learn a lesson." Today, the ancient city of Nara is one of the most popular tourist destinations in Japan. Nara had once served as the imperial capital, long before Kyoto had even been founded, and today it's still famous for its temples, statues, and for the red deer in the temple grounds who have learned to bow to tourists in exchange for receiving food. But among Nara's most remarkable sights is the temple of Todaiji, and the giant bronze statue of Buddha that it houses. Until 1998, Todaiji was the world's largest wooden building. But remarkably, as vast as the building seems today, the original Great Buddha Hall, or Daibutsuren, which was founded back in the 8th century, was even larger. It is said that more than 2 million people helped in its construction. It truly must have been one of the wonders of the world. The fact that the original Great Buddha Hall and its giant bronze statue are no longer with us is because of what happened on the night of the 15th of January, 1181, when an army of mounted samurai arrived to take revenge on the monks who had dared to play football with Lord Kiyomori's head. It is the hour of the hare, 6 a.m., and the first of Kiyomori's horsemen have arrived at the outskirts of Nara. They soon realize that their advance is blocked by defenses that have been hastily erected by the Nara monks. At the two main access points at Narasaka and Hanyaji, the monks have dug deep trenches across the roads and built a wall of shields. 7,000 monks, the old with the young, warriors and novices, have bound on their helmets and now lie in wait for the onslaught that they know must come. Kiyomori's son orders his vanguard to attack, and the Heike horsemen ride down on these makeshift forts with deafening battle cries. The monks, all on foot, are armed only with blades. The advancing samurai gallop around them, harrying them one way then another, showering them with volleys of arrows, killing countless numbers of the defenders. Yet somehow, miraculously, the monks hold on and prevent the Heike from breaking through the lines and reaching the precious temples. The fighting continues for many hours, and then, when it seems as if the Heike might finally break through the shield wall, a giant warrior monk strides forward from the defences. One hand grips the shaft of his battle axe, the blade curved like a long blade of grass. The other grips a great black lacquered sword. "I am Saka no Shiro Yokaku," he declares, "and I dare any of you Heike scum to face me." The huge monk charges headlong at the Heike lines and scythes down warrior after warrior until finally he is lost among a mass of Heike, and his fellow monks realize he is gone. But Yokaku's heroism inspires the remaining monks to resist with their last breath. By now, the battle has lasted almost 10 hours, and the light is starting to fail. The young Heike commander, Shigehira, is worried that he will not achieve his objective before nightfall, and that his father, Lord Kiyomori, will be furious at his failure. In frustration, he turns to one of his men, Tomakata, and orders a fire to be lit. The fire could spread, my lord," Tomakata warns. "Is that wise?" "My father said we should take any means necessary," spits Shigehira. "Start a fire." Tomakata splits a wooden shield to make a torch and promptly sets fire to a local's house. But as Tomakata feared, the result is devastating. Strong winds soon carry the fire from building to building, and eventually the flames reach the temples of the ancient capital. By now, most of the warrior monks have either been killed or have fled into the nearby mountains. Those who cannot escape, elderly monks, scholars, women and children, have gathered for safety inside the great temples of Todaiji and Kofukuji, where they expect to find sanctuary. At the wooden temple of Todaiji, over 1,700 people climb to the second floor of the Great Buddha Hall, and to prevent attackers from following them, they take up the ladders. But now, the fire sweeps into the building. The onlookers outside, both attackers and defenders, can only look up in horror as they realize what is now happening. The devouring flames sweep straight through the temple and into the huddled mass on the second floor. At this point, says the tale of the Heike, sinners burning in hell never uttered such hideous screams. As the flames consume the temple, the enormous statue of Roshana Buddha, made of gilt bronze and 160 feet tall, begins to melt. The great domed head, which was once said to disappear into the clouds, fuses with the heat and falls to the ground, while the body collapses to a shapeless mass. Meanwhile, at Nara's other great temple, Kofukuji, there is another apocalyptic scene. Priceless items, the most precious holy scriptures in the whole of Japan, go up in flames, all gone to the last scroll. Life-size golden statues that have been brought back from India centuries ago and believed to be from the time of the Buddha himself are now destroyed. The sky is aflame, and smoke fills the heavens. In total, 3,500 people now lie dead. Lord Kiyomori's revenge has been swift and devastating, but the shockwaves will reverberate, and as the Heike soldiers look at the wasteland they have left, they know there will be a price to pay for their destruction. Never again will the Heike command support from the monks of the great temples. Shigehira leads his troops back north and arrives at the capital the following day. His father, Kiyomori, rejoices at the monks' destruction, but most members of the family and of the court lament what has happened. After appeals from his advisors, Kiyomori agrees that the heads of the slaughtered monks will not be put up on display for fear that it will cause a public revolt, so they are simply thrown into gutters and ditches. On a wall of a surviving building in Nara, someone writes a message, a note that Emperor Shomu had written long ago. As long as my temple flourishes, so shall the realm. Should my temple fall, so too will the realm. News of these momentous events reaches the town of Kamakura, where the heir to the Genji line, Yoritomo, waits with anticipation to hear of Lord Kiyomori's next moves. One morning, Yoritomo receives a letter from an informant, his uncle, Yukie. Yoritomo summons his wife Masako and his younger half-brother, Yoshitsune. He begins to read aloud news that his uncle brings. Resistance is growing, Yukie says. There's rebellion against the Heike in Kyushu, and now in Shikoku, and in the mountains of Shinano. Well, that must be Kiso Yoshinaka, says Masako. Your cousin will be a loose cannon we'd need to watch. So what of Kiyomori, asked Yoshitsune. Will he attack Kiso, or will he come here for us at Kamakura? Well, Yoritomo continues to read the letter, and his expression changes from puzzlement to shock. Well, what? asked Masako. Well, perhaps neither. Why, what is it? There are rumors that the Heike Lord is dead. In the next episode, a new force rises in the central mountains of Japan that leads to an unexpected twist in the clash of the Genji and the Heike.